I'm Danica Lorer, and this is Lit Happens, your celebration of the literary arts here in Saskatchewan. Today I'm very pleased to welcome our guest, Lloyd Ratzlaff. Lloyd, welcome to Lit Happens.
Thank you for having me.
So Lloyd, we're really pleased to have you. Can you just let's start close to the beginning. Tell me a little bit about what brought you to this point. Why did you start writing?
I think I knew when I was 14 or 15 that I wanted to, or would like to be. I'm not sure I ever believed I would be. And but I can remember vividly going to visit in a neighboring town when the newspaper was being printed. And actually the press was silent at the time, but the printman was standing between two giant ping pong paddles, black paddles that flapped together, and he'd insert I think it was an auction sale bill, and pull it out. And I thought, wow, I want to be part of this, because I grew up in a small village, but we farmed. We lived or at the edge of the village, but did farm work. And it never took for me. So I read voraciously. We didn't have access to a great deal of literature, and in some ways I've always felt very far behind. But I did start writing about 20 years ago, and a fairly late start, I think. But it wanted out, I guess.
And so you have 3 books now, and you've called it creative nonfiction. So can you just tell us a little bit about that genre?
Yeah. So my own preferred term is literary nonfiction, because it has, I think, slightly less alliance with news reportage, as creative nonfiction often does. Some of my mentors have called these books lyric essays, and I kind of like that term as well. I hope that my writing is sometimes lyrical anyway. But these books, to me, are a trilogy. The first one, and they're all published by Thistledown Press, to whom I'm very grateful. So the first book was written at a time when I left. I was a minister, and I left the ministry and a marriage at the same time. And I lived near Diefenbaker Park at the time, which became my sanctuary. It was the most undeveloped park in Saskatoon, and 3 or 4 times a week I'd walk around it, and often never encounter another human being. But lots of nature essays came from that, and the sanctuary that the place was for me. The second book, Backwater Mystic Blues, is, I often think of Duke Ellington's line. He said, I merely took the energy it takes to pout and wrote some blues. So it's kind of a literary blues for my home and native land, the village of Laird and the district of Springfield, where I grew up. And then the newest one, Bindy's Moon, is the book that I always thought I would write first, but as often happens, it's come around to sort of complete a cycle. And that one is not a collection as the other 2 are. It has a narrative thread throughout. And it concerns the year of a very close cousin and soul brothers dying of a brain tumor. It's not a gloomy book, though. Some of the reviewers have actually professed to find quite a bit of humor in it, which I'm very happy about. But it's the year of Bindy was the nickname of my cousin Jim. And the year of his dying, we spent a great deal of time together, and he seemed in some ways to be finding solace again in a religious tradition that I felt I was in full career of getting away from. So there were some challenges in our meetings during that year, but this book came of it. And so it kind of ties together. I think thematically, the 3 books have a fair bit in common. So I call it a trilogy.
And so they're very rooted in this place. I think that there are several Saskatchewan authors that I know that really are affected by the place, the nature you've spoken about here. And you talked a little bit more about the musicality of the language in the second one. And so that really, it's beautiful, it's almost poetic. So do you think of it as almost a prose poetry process that you use?
It feels to me very bold to think of myself as a poet, but I am always grateful when other people say that there are poetic passages in it, and some reviewers have used that term, narrative poetry, so I'm grateful for that. But my good friend Jerry Hill, who's the Saskatchewan Poet Laureate, tells me he never thinks about genre. He just writes the way it comes and then works on it. And I think if I get too concerned about how you label this writing, then I would be distracted. So it changes as it goes, and I hope, of course, becomes more lyrical.
Well, then I think that may do a disservice to our reading and our writing if we have to always put something in a very clearly defined box or label something.
Yes,
And
yes.
so if we can approach the work with an open heart and an open mind and read it in that sense and allow that lyrical language to touch us in a way,
Yeah.
that can open it up to something.
There is a sense, of course, in which all writing is fiction because it's a construction. I think the poet John Newlove called his work makings. They're makings, things we make. So I am very grateful to my mentors. I in the past have consulted with writers in residence at the library. I've been most fortunate in the editors I've been given by Thistledown, and in other people in workshops. And although I'm a late starter, I think as a writer, or was a late starter, there's just been countless joys. I love being a writer. It feels like this is what I was meant to do. And I wish sometimes I hadn't taken so long to do it.
And we do, and I think that when we think about that solitary life of a writer, that community is so important. Those people that surround us and make the writing better, or even just support us. And I think that we're very lucky here in Saskatchewan to have that.
Oh, we are. Our Writers Guild and our Arts Board, and there's just, I also put off joining the Guild for so many years because I was certain that all the members were snobs and they would not accept someone like me. And in fact, I have rarely, if ever, found anyone remotely like that. Mostly they're just wonderful people trying to tell good stories.
Well, Lloyd, I think that that's a fantastic way to end it because we're out of time today. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for watching Lit Happens. I'm Danica Lorer. You can find past episodes by going to YouTube and searching out Shaw TV Saskatoon. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter, and you can also email me at danicalorer@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching.